Hello, Drunvalo.
Hello, Lilou.
I'm so
Hello,
happy.
good morning from Sedona with the red rocks and all this beautiful stuff here in Arizona. And you, I guess, are in France, is that right?
I am in France currently, yes. So thanks to technology, we can do this. I feel very blessed to have this conversation right now with you and share it with as many people on the web as possible. A lot of people are looking up for those teachings that you are sharing, with us. So really, really thankful. And I want to talk particularly this time about 2012. But historically, the evolution of humanity would be important to your eyes to explain before we get into where we're at right now and what you're seeing actually. And I want to talk about plasma beings as well. So tell us about this evolution.
Well, okay. If you go back to, say, 1890, somewhere around in there, we were riding around on horses, which is a beautiful thing to do. But the idea of the kind of technology and the kind of evolution that they were about to go into, they had no idea. The idea or the concept of going to the moon or sending spaceships to Mars and mapping the entire surface of Mars, or to Venus and mapping the entire surface of Venus, these kind of things, they weren't even science fiction. They didn't have that kind of understanding. And this was only a little over 100 years ago. And all of a sudden, things began to escalate and move very, very quickly. If you go up into Tesla's work with the Montauk experiment in 1941 and 42, there he was beginning to introduce technologies that the Earth had never, ever even considered before. What they were trying to do there was to get a battleship to become invisible, literally to make it fourth dimensional. And they were using technology that was off planet. Tesla himself said, they asked him where he got this, and he said, I'm getting this from ETs, people I'm talking to. These ETs that he was talking to were the ones that we were first introduced to. That was the grays, the little guys. They weren't very tall. They had a gray skin and these big black eyes. And that was, they were giving him technology to the government in return for us being nice to them. We had a whole different relationship with them when we first started. But as time went on, that changed. Then in 1945, we exploded an atomic bomb. That changed everything for us. That was technology, but it really changed our evolutionary patterns. What we did was illegal. It was against the law everywhere throughout the universe. You can work with fusion. You can bring atoms together. You can't break them apart. That's illegal. The reason is because everything is interconnected. And so if you do something on a small level, like an atomic level, it's going to affect something on a big level. And in this case, it was the Greys' home base. They were out of Orion. If you look into the middle star of the belt of Orion and go directly behind that to the Crab Nebula, an exploding nebula, around that area is where the Greys came from. And we literally destroyed about 100 of their planets. And so they were upset, to say the least. And they came here actually in time travel. They went back. They first arrived here at about 1910, trying to fix things. And they were that's why they were helping us with these Montauk experiments. But when the atomic bomb went off, that triggered everybody in the universe. I mean, everyone. Basically, the cosmic police came in. And in 1946, in the summer of 1946, there were spaceships all over every single military base in Europe. There might have been an exception, but not very many. And they just swarmed all over everywhere. And then in June of 1947, they were all over every military base in the United States and in Japan.
How do we know that?
I can prove that. The head of the Blue Book project, which was the United States Air Force project, was Captain Rupert. They never talk about him. They really want to act like he never existed. But he was the director of the Blue Book project from day one all the way to about 4 or 5 years into it. And prior to that, he was the head and the director of the Project Grudge, which is an even more secret UFO investigative project. And when he got out, which I think was in 1951 or 52, and they relieved him of that, he wrote a book to the United States people called A Report on Flying Saucers. And he gave in detail everything that happened in his administration for 5 years. He listed names and people and the generals and exactly the committees that met and everything. And he was the one who said this, that they all started out first all over Europe in 46, and then all over the United States and Japan in 1947. And if anybody wants to see that book, by the way, the Air Force at that time, right when he got out, decided that this had to remain secret. And so when he published this book, they went out and they confiscated every copy of this book they could find. And interesting enough, he died a year or so later. We don't know why, but he is no longer existing. And when I found this book, I found one copy of it. It was 50 cents, a little book from back in the 1952. We recopyrighted it and we reprinted it. And so I haven't sold this for a long time, but if anybody wants it, they can go on drunvalo.net and I'll get them a copy of it and they can read it. It's amazing. There were 42,000 sightings in 1947, and they took 750 of those sightings that were so outrageous just to study carefully. Those were sightings where the UFO was directly over a military base with one of our jets directly behind it, and the pilot locked onto it with our radar directly seeing the two blimps going by. And in these cases, usually quite a few generals and people on the ground watching them go by. And so it wasn't a matter of did this happen or did it not. They had 750 cases they knew for certain it happened. And he talks about these things.
So tell us, why does it disturb so much the government?
Well, they realized by 1951 or 2 that this was a serious situation. And they also realized that they weren't as friendly as they thought they were initially. And actually, they were not friendly. Their intention was to eliminate every last human being on Earth, and they weren't kidding around. And they began to know this, and that's when they pulled the shade down, made sure nobody knew what was going on, and then they continued on trying to solve the problem. This is why they went into Star Wars. It wasn't to go after incoming meteorites and things like this. It was so that we had a 360-degree angle where we could declare war on them if we had to. And they were scared for a long time, and they had good reason to be scared. And that's over with now. That doesn't exist anymore. We've solved all of those problems, and the Greys aren't even on Earth anymore right now. They have left us here. And the situation with ETs has changed dramatically over the last few years. And it is this new approach that is coming in is extremely positive. And we think that there's just the Greys here and perhaps the reptiles and a few other races that are working together. But because of what's going on here and because of our evolution, this is something I have to get into, what's going on in our evolution. There are so many people, this is going to be a hard one to even accept or even believe, but we know this. There are now over 250,000 different species of life forms from other places that are here on Earth in either a fourth dimensional or higher level. They're watching us carefully, and these people love us. They do not want to hurt us. They want to try to help us. And it's a whole different situation, but most of the world and even most UFO people don't understand what is going on right now. And later in this broadcast, I'll get into one of these races that love us so much and really, really do want to help us. And when you understand it, it makes you feel better. Makes you feel better about life, definitely.
So, how did it evolve the past decade or the past 2 decades?
Well, this has been going on, and eventually by the 1995 or so, the Greys had to leave. It's a long story why and what took place, but we forced them to leave. It was not military. It was a single female person, and she defeated them. It's amazing. But these are stories that I can't get into now. It's just too complex, and it would take us away from the bigger picture.
We can't
But at
even
this,
know who it is.
we're not allowed. I can't say who that is. That person's life would not be safe. No, we can't do it. It's an indigenous person, a woman out of Peru. That's about all I can say right now. But and so the evolutionary aspect is what is now bringing in the attention of life everywhere. We don't know how fast we are evolving. Something took place. You see all these rapid events of changes that were taking place in our lives, mixed in with all this technology. There was something going on with the sun, of all things. The sun that was what only happens once in the life of a star, only one time. All suns, all stars start out as hydrogen suns. And it takes a long time, in this case about 5 billion years or a little more, for us to build up enough helium to begin the next stage. What happens is the light from the sun is caused by two hydrogen atoms coming together, forming helium. And so everything that is evolved on Earth up into this moment is evolved directly from this hydrogen light that is coming to the Earth. And you can speak with any scientist on Earth, and he'll tell you that all life that is here on Earth came from the sun, not from Earth, but from the sun, from the light and the radiation that came from the sun. That is what is evolving us. Well, when the light changes, that's a big deal, and it changes evolution forever. And we are now got to a place where the helium is built up so high inside of the sun that you're getting 3 helium atoms coming together, forming carbon, and a new kind of light is evolving onto Earth. Bell Labs acknowledged this on August 7th, 1972, when the first helium blast came off of the sun. They were amazed by this. They took the photograph of it and said that this was probably one of the greatest moments in the history of the Earth. And we just kept right on going like nothing was happening. And right after that, or right before that, in the 60s, the revolution that began to take place there, that was because the helium light was beginning to change then, but it peaked on August 7th, 1972, and we'll never be the same after that. And so what it means is that for some reason, and we believe we know, but that's another subject that would take about an hour to explain, our evolution has suddenly catapulted into another level, and it's something that the rest of the universe has never ever seen before. They can't even believe it. It's kind of like if there was a baby born, and then suddenly the baby comes out a little baby, but then 15 minutes later it's an adult. This is just like, how can this be? And so the evolution speed that humanity is going through right now it's mind-blowing to everyone that's watching it. And we don't know because we're inside the box, not outside the box. And so we don't know that we're evolving so quickly and so fast. But we are. This is not normal. This has never, ever been seen before since the beginning of the creation of this universe. And so it has attracted, this is why these 250,000 and maybe as many as 300,000 different cultures are here. They're not here because of the atomic bombs or anything the Greys were involved in. They didn't care about that. They care about the evolution that we're going through. Because if we continue to move on an evolutionary path at the rate that we're moving, we are going to affect the evolution of the entire universe. And they know this. And so they know it's going to affect them, and that's why they are so closely watching what's taking place with us.
What are the different elements of that evolution? What are the different things that are evolving within us? Can you point at that?
Well, it's beginning with technology. Technology, we think that we are the greatest thing that ever lived on the surface of the earth. And we point to our technology and our mental abilities. That we say, look at us, nobody's ever done this before. In fact, life forms have done this many times before on Earth. We just don't know it, but not in this way. And this evolutionary change that's occurring is it's beginning with it's beginning with technology, and they're feeding us this. We're literally being fed this technology to give us this. But what happens, and they know this, is that we're coming to this point very soon. And what the Mayans say happens in 2012, or actually could happen even today, because it's this window around 2012. It's not the date December 21st, 2012. It's from October 24th, 2007 to approximately November, December 2015. That's a window, and the events that the Mayans talk about could happen anytime in that window, which means it could happen today. But let me see, where was I?
Well, we were looking at the different things. One of them being the technology is one of the factors that really is helping us to evolve. But I was also wanting to hear from you, what are the different things that are evolving within us, like our DNA, our frequency, vibration, our capacities, etc.
Okay. Well, the technology aspect is a lead-in. We think it's the end in itself, that being able to do all kinds of amazing things with technology is the end of it. From a higher point of being, a higher being's point of view, it's kind of like a chicken and the cracking of the egg. Whenever technology appears on these levels, we know that that race is just about ready to evolve very fast. A day will come, any day now, when we are going to realize that we don't need this technology anymore. We can do without anything, without any electronics, without anything, just having a human body, that we can do absolutely anything that technology has done now, and we can do things that we can't even imagine at this point. And we are going to do this. This is what all of life is now just waiting for us to do, and we are just ready to step out of that, into that level of existence. Yes, there are changes within our DNA. Some of these changes that are being presented by different teachers around the world, I don't believe have any validity, and some of them do. The idea that we're about to move from 2 strands in our DNA to 12 strands in our DNA, first of all, is not even physically possible. The DNA is based on the dodecahedron-icosahedron relationship, and when you look at it, it's a pentagon facing down, a pentagon facing up, and there are 10 possible channels, not 12. And there has never been one person on Earth where they've ever seen 12 channels move into yet. However, there have seen DNA changes in the codons. And there are 64 codons in the DNA, and human beings are running on, I think, about 21 or 22 or something of them. And suddenly, coming from children, they have found that there are 6 more codons that have been activated, and these children are choosing 2 of those 6. Mm-hmm. And so this is a big deal, and we don't know what it means yet. NASA is covering this. They are exploring it in depth right now, trying to understand what it means, because these are the kids with the ADD and ADHD that are extremely right-brained, that can't get through school. They're
what
not
people
logical.
Call indigo children or crystal children?
Indigo kids, yes, crystal kids. These kids are geniuses on 1 level or 2 levels, but they have a very hard time getting through school. They either get A+++ or they get an F. They can't seem to get anything in the middle very easily. And so science is now studying them, trying to understand who this new people are. They have not only that, they have a new stomach and a new liver. And so obviously they have a new DNA physiologically also. We don't know what that is yet, or at least it hasn't been reported that I'm aware of. But they do know they have this. But
so, how about on us? How about with other type of people on this planet? Is everybody also changing and DNAs are evolving regardless of their awakening, or this is totally related to that?
Purely on a scientific level, we don't know that yet. We can see that certain people in certain areas are changing faster than people in other areas and are evolving faster than others. But scientifically, this is a very rapid moving situation, and there aren't a lot of researchers, and most of those researchers that are doing this are from the government, and they're not talking. And so,
what is your way of seeing it then?
well, yes, we are evolving, and my whole thing for the last 47 years has been studying human consciousness. Not from I did go through college and graduated and studied physics and math and other things, but that isn't where I'm coming from. I'm studying the ancient masters all over the world, different forms of meditation. I've studied with over 70, 72 different teachers, each from everything you can imagine, from Hindu and Tibetan to Sufi to Taoist to on and on and on and on. And really, now that I've looked at most of them, and that also includes many indigenous tribes around the world and how they perceive life, we are changing dramatically. In fact, even having this subject that we're talking about right now, say 10 years ago, wouldn't be very likely that anybody would show up and listen. They're showing up and listening because things are going on inside of them where they're suddenly beginning to realize that something is going on in them as well as around the world, and they weren't aware of this before. 20 years ago, no way, not even possible. We are becoming a different human race. I just did a new video called "The Birth of a New Humanity," and it went out on YouTube, and we can even sell it to you as a DVD if you want it. But that was an extraordinary event that has taken place. It's 13,000 years of humanity working together to create a electromagnetic field above the Earth, so that is geometrical in nature and surrounds the whole planet, which NASA has totally mapped, and so has Russia, and which is necessary for us to move from normal human consciousness to a brand new level of consciousness. I don't know what you want to call it. Some people are calling it Christ consciousness, and some people have different ideas, unity consciousness.
How about the heart consciousness?
The heart consciousness would be a better one, really, because this consciousness is based on heart perception rather than brain perception. And it's something outside of who we are right now. It's something that we are just evolving into at this moment. There's only a few people in the world that really understand. It's another set of children, not the indigo or the crystal kids, but what are called the super psychic children. But super psychic implies it's a brain function, but that's not how they're doing these things. They're doing them from their heart and from the connection to these grids above the earth. And they're able to do anything. If you look at the scientific research and what these children are doing, it does not seem possible, and it is something beyond anything we've ever seen. The Chinese have actually scientifically reported to all the major magazines like Nature Journal and Science News that they've actually watched children walk through solid walls. No kidding. And they've been able to do things that are where they can just look at a petri dish with DNA in it and change the DNA just by looking at it. And it goes on and on and on and on. And this is all scientifically being reported. The world doesn't know what to do about it. I mean, scientifically, they just can't imagine what is happening here. And so the grids now above the earth are done. It took 13,000 years to complete these grids. And they're done, they're finished, they're alive. And the Earth's Kundalini, which is another deep subject about all of this that moved out of Tibet and into Chile, is now functioning. And we are, from what I can see, we are ready to go. We're just like in the starting place. All we got to do is somebody give us a green light and we're ready to go. And we're perfectly aligned inside the timing according to the Mayans and the Hopi and the Zulu and the Waitaha and the Kogi and the Arawakos and tribes all over the world are totally wrapped up into this right now. We are ready to be and to go on an adventure like humankind has never had in their lives before. It's
Is it
exciting.
happening? Is it happening at the same rate for you? You think at the same level and with the same timing, or there's different kind of pops and waves of people on
There,
this planet?
there are people that are going ahead. The ascended masters, people who have evolved from all over the world, but human beings just like us, but evolved, and now are immortal. They don't die anymore, and they are deeply.
Avatars? Is that the same than avatars or not?
An avatar is someone coming here onto Earth to change humankind. These are beings that have gone beyond that. They're not that would be like a Jesus would be an avatar, someone who is attempting to change everything. These are people who did not attempt to change anything; they just did it and went on, and they are deeply involved in all of this. Without them, we would have never made it. They are the highest levels of humankind. But there are other people now here on Earth, lots of them, probably into at least 1 million or more, that are rapidly changing into levels that they're not human anymore. They're able to do things and are able to function on levels that we could not say is a human capability. And they're going up further all the time, every day. And I study these people. I go somewhere in the world every 3 weeks, and I've been doing this for 27 years, 280 times going around the world to different places. And I go in there and I study with people at different places from in Russia or China or Japan or different areas, different places, and it is really happening, but in small pockets of people. The time is about to come when the entire human race is about to come together and move in a way that we had no idea that it was even possible for us to do this.
And it's impossible for us to miss that?
Oh yes, you're not. No, you're not going to. You're not going to say, "Is this happening or is it not?" There's not going to be any doubt. There's a lot of things that are going to occur that are huge, and they're part of this human jump in consciousness. Just as birth, when a baby comes out and is birthed into this reality, it's a pretty big deal for that baby and for the mother and for those that are around. And when we get birthed into this new level of consciousness, it's going to be a big deal for us too. It's not going to be anything that you're going to wonder if it's happening or not.
Even for people that are not interested in this subject?
It won't make any difference if they believe in it or don't believe in it or even care. It's going to happen whether they like it or not. It's already in the process.
What are the signs of that for when it will happen? Do we know?
Well, one of them of these signs is predicted by the Mayans, and they're predicting that there's going to be a physical pole shift. Literally, the axis of the Earth is going to turn to a new location. That would definitely catch the attention of every last living thing on this Earth, not just humans. And it would be huge. There's a lot of people who are speculating what that would mean. The movie 2012 that came out scientifically was trying to give an idea of what level that would mean. And as you can see, that's no little thing. It's big. But will everybody make this through here? Will the whole humanity, every last person? Probably not. But will humanity make it through? The answer from me is absolutely yes. We've already made it. Because once that grid is completed around the Earth, life always makes it after that. It's another long story, but we've already made it. I know this in my heart. I know for sure we've made it.
Yeah, sorry. The what?
Well, I was just going to. There was life for a long time. ET life that were coming here besides these other races that most people are aware of. There were other races they weren't aware of who cared about us but really didn't think that we would be able to make it through to this level. But we've made it. And as you're going to see over the next year or two or three, a transformation is going to occur that's just incredible. And
is there a darker time just before all this happens? Is there an increase in darkness or something that we have to go through before this happens?
yes, and science is watching this occur right now. The thing that has to happen scientifically, people who study these kinds of things, when a pole shift happens, there's always a magnetic pole shift first. And that's exactly what we're going through right now. The world scientists in 2003 made an hour-long program on Nova, and they were talking about the changes in the magnetic field, talking about how 2,000 years ago the magnetic field began to drop dramatically, and then 500 years ago it really started to drop and get weaker, and then about 40 years ago it started, the anomalies in the magnetic field began to appear all over the Earth, so much so that about 20 years ago they had to change all the magnetic maps from the airports all over the world because they weren't any good anymore. Now they're so bad that they have to look at where the magnetic poles are pointing to at the moment the plane is coming in to make sure that they don't land out in a field somewhere and they land on the concrete. And so the magnetic fields are getting weaker. In 2003, they made this statement out to the world saying that what's happening is that the south pole of the Earth, there are these lines that come out. The magnetic lines go out the south pole, and then they wrap all the way around the Earth, and they come in the North Pole, and then they come back out the South Pole. Well, at the South Pole, what's happening is there's huge areas being formed that where the lines are coming out and then wrapping right back in. And those areas which makes the field weaker. And there's areas that are, these holes are becoming more and more and more and bigger and bigger and bigger. So in 2003, they said, because of what we're watching here, we believe that there's going to be a north and south pole shift, that the North Pole is going to become the south is going to become the north, and that the pole itself is going to move to another location. And they said at that time, we believe that this is going to happen sometime in the next 25 years. Then about 18 months ago, and I'm guessing at this time, they didn't bother to make a movie. They just went straight on the internet, and they said that, and they got 11 days of talking before the government shut them off. But they said that this is getting way worse and moving faster than they ever thought was possible, and that now they think that this time of 25 years is coming much, much closer. And then this was maybe 9 months ago or so, they came back out. They got 5 days before they were shut off. And they said they can't even believe what is going on, that it is happening so fast that now the holes are getting so big at the South Pole that they feel that this could happen any day, literally any day. And so when the magnetic poles shift on the Earth, it's an amazing thing because it happens very fast, and they just go away. Well, what happens when they go away is when that's something that people may want to spend a little bit of time studying because it's huge. After 14 days, and some scientific circles say it could be as much as 21 days, but sometime between 2 and 3 weeks, several things take place. One of them is that humankind, their memories are erased. This we know from Russia when they went into space for the first time. And the first astronaut that was in space, after 2 weeks, he lost his memories completely. He didn't know his name. He didn't know what all these knobs were for. He didn't know anything. And they had to go and get him and bring him back. And they've now declared that he's insane and incurable, and his memories are gone. The other person they brought up there, the same thing happened to him. And that's when they realized it's space. Well, at that far in space, the magnetic field is so weak that it can't do what it's supposed to do in the human body. The human body's, our memories are magnetic in nature, and they're held in place by the weak magnetic field of the Earth moving through our body. And so what the astronauts did in Russia and now in the United States and everywhere is that they have a little device on their belt that approximates the magnetic field, and that in turn keeps your memories from being erased. And so this is a big deal. We don't know how the governments are going to deal with this. They understand the problem. If you can know, if you study consciousness, there is something called the Merkaba, which is an external electromagnetic field that is around the body. It's about 55 to 60 feet that surrounds the entire body. And that field, once it's activated through meditation, you can approximate the Earth's magnetic field. And you, if you are one of those people, you will not have your memories erased. This is, I think, the most serious situation that the governments of the Earth are trying to deal with at the moment, of how to do this. They really don't know what to do. The other thing that happens is that the crust of the Earth, for a long time, they could not understand how there could be a pole shift. It didn't make any sense, because the Earth is a huge gyroscope and rotating with unbelievable mass. And if you were to just move the Earth to a new axis, the amount of force and energy that would be required is beyond anything that we can imagine that would naturally take place. It would have to be a moon running into the Earth to make that kind of force to move the Earth off axis. And so even though we know that the Earth shifts its poles all the time, I've personally studied 250 million years, and we have done it several hundred times in that time. Now they've gone back about 450 million years, and we have shifted our axis many times. We've shifted it 13,000 years ago, and we shifted it 26,000 years ago. And now 13,000 years ago, exactly on December 21st, 2012, scientifically, we would expect the poles to shift because they run in flurries. When you see them happen, you don't just see one pole shift, you see 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 in a row. And we've just had 2 in a row. So you would expect this for a pole shift to happen. But we don't know how it could happen. So what they've now discovered, and they now have accepted in 1985, is the work of a scientist who discovered something. And that is the crust of the Earth, a thin eggshell hard surface that is surrounded by lava underneath that. There's a crust, there's a rock surface that holds the crust to the lava. And it's homogeneous over the whole Earth. And it's a rock, and it holds that surface in there until the magnetic field goes to 0. And after 14 to 21 days, this rock turns into a liquid. And now the surface of the Earth can just float around and move. It doesn't have to. The Earth can keep rotating. Nothing changes on those levels. But the surface of the Earth can move. And what they believe is going to happen is that the South Pole, the ice caps, are off surface, they're off center to the spin of the Earth. And when we go into, and so when the crust is free to move, that ice is going to move into the spin of the Earth and move the crust to a new North and South Pole. They're pretty well convinced of this now. In fact, they have already figured out where that North Pole is going to be, which is about 17 degrees into Russia in this particular place. And Edgar Cayce, a very famous scientist in the 1920s up to the 1950s, he predicted in the 1920s, I think it was, that there would be a pole shift at this time. And that's exactly where he predicted 16 degrees into Russia, almost exactly the same place. So you have the psychics and the scientists agreeing that this is probably going to happen.